Yes, guys, Suki from BTS TV, Beyond the Stage. And today I managed to get Alex Davies. Alex, the promoter of FMG UK and Europe as well. Did I hear about that? Obviously,
we are expanding into Europe in 2025. Me personally, I'm not currently promoting any shows.
Okay.
We do have, we'll go into, as we discussed, the expansion into Europe as we start talking about FMG. But at present, myself and my business partner Renata are the FMG UK show promoters. So we hosted the 2024 FMG UK debut show, which was a pro-am. So we had a professional and amateur category. That was in August at the Troxy in London. And we are delighted to announce that we will be hosting the 2025 FMG UK at the Troxy again, and that will be on the 16th of August 2025.
Okay, so already look, I'm keen to talk about the FMG now. Look, I really want to start here by where did FMG originate? So I'm really keen to hear what your thoughts are there and where the opportunity came from for yourself and Renata to then be part of FMG. So are you able just to give me a little background about how FMG started and more importantly, why? Why did you guys see the opportunity to create FMG and make it for what it is today?
Of course, yes. So FMG is founded by Ari. You can find him on Instagram, Ari Empire. He owns FMG International, and alongside his business partner, Pauline Newman, who is the vice president of FMG Shows, they were a franchise owner of another organization. They hosted shows in Australia. They did a fantastic job. They had hundreds of competitors on stage with fantastic levels of pro and amateur athletes. So they knew exactly how to put on a great show. Towards the end of 2023, they decided rather than being a franchise owner of another organization, they wanted to start something which was their own brand, but it was all about prioritizing the athlete's experience. It was all about giving the athletes the best possible experience. So that's where FMG was born from Ari and Pauline in Australia. They then decided that they needed a network of international promoters in order to have international shows around the world, obviously hotspots such as United States, United Kingdom, Dubai. So they had a conversation about who they believed to have been heavily involved in the fitness industry. At the time, I was still competing in yet another different organization, so I was still an active competitor. So Pauline and Ari actually had a conversation with Renata, my business partner, about hosting the London FMG show. And I've known Renata for many, many years. We've known each other from me having been a pro in another organization. Renata was an official costume designer for an organization for many, many, many years. So she understands the industry really well. And we ended up coming together. Renata and I known each other for a very long time. We decided to talk about how I could help run the show. It was actually a conversation that started with, could I be the head judge for the show? Because I've been a judge for different shows in the past. And as we started talking about the logistics and the organizational requirements of the show, Renata invited me to be her business partner in order for us to run the show together. So since then, we have basically been working together along with our team. We have a huge team in the UK of people that we heavily rely on to help promote the show, help us with some of the administration tasks. We obviously work closely with Pauline and Ari to make sure that the datum is set worldwide for FMG shows, make sure that we've got a consistent standard across the board. You know, we have certain requirements for the size of the venue, the style of the venue, the music, the lighting, the photography has to be consistent. You know, we were basically using what they'd created already to make that a uniform platform worldwide. So we wanted to just make sure that we could replicate exactly what they were doing, but here in the UK, and that's what we managed to achieve in August of 2024.
No, definitely. I'm looking through these imagery here as well. I mean, look, bodybuilding and fitness is absolutely booming. We know there's been more federations than ever before, and I've kind of monitored the numbers for different fitness model, fitness glamour federations in 2024, and it looked like there was, in some federations, the numbers started to reduce. I don't know if that was mainly down to I'm seeing more fitness fitness glamour competitors moving from those federations to other federations in bodybuilding and in the bodybuilding scene. Definitely some names that come to mind. How are you viewing the UK market at the moment for that type of clientele, that type of competitors that you're targeting? Are you seeing that the numbers are where they were maybe a few years ago? Are we seeing a growth, or are we seeing the fact that we're in a rebirth zone, a new chapter with FMG looking to try and be the pilot of this new era for fitness and glamour?
Yeah, I've really noticed when I first got into competing, which was around 2015, it was extremely popular for the fitness model, muscle model type categories across the board in all the organizations. That was because if you look at a brand like the IFBB, for example, they're always going to be the pinnacle of mainstream bodybuilding. They always have been, they always will be. We're not trying to be mainstream bodybuilding. We're trying to provide a slightly different category, platform, and environment experience for our athletes. But what I noticed was you had men's physique, which used to be much, much smaller, and then you had men's bodybuilding, and there was nothing in between. So you have all these people who didn't really fit into either or. They were somewhere in between, and the fitness model and the muscle model categories were, or the sort of physique categories were perfectly fit for those types of shapes and sizes. Since men's physique has evolved and got bigger in terms of physical size, and classic physique came out, I think that was an instant attraction for the majority of the male competitors in the UK and worldwide. You also then have social media. You have younger upcoming athletes like Chris Bumstead setting the bar. He's a perfect example of a role model for young guys who want to be a bodybuilder, but they might not necessarily want to go all the way up to open pro size. In terms of the girls categories, I still feel like, in my experience, some women are just competing for the physique assessment. Some women are competing because they like the glamour and beauty aspect of the competing. So they like doing the hair, the makeup, they like doing the theme wear or the evening wear that we host at the FMG shows. And I know a few other organizations do as well. So I feel like, obviously we have to throw in COVID here. There was a long period of time where there was no shows at all. And I think the most momentum was picked up as soon as NPC IFBB started running again. And some of the other organizations may have taken a hit and seen a reduced number. Now that we've got FMG shows as a brand new organization, it's familiar in the way that some of the categories might seem similar to those that other people have experienced before. But it's also new enough to give people a brand new perspective on competing. One of our greatest feats of 2024 was the feedback that we've had from the competitors saying that it was the experience throughout the entire thing, the registration, the red carpet event, the show, the feedback from judges' feedback. Those are the kind of things that athletes value because it expands their experience. It's not just showing up, spending 10 minutes on stage and going home with their placing. It's the entire experience, peak week, the prep, having workshops to promote and network. Those are the kind of things that we're focusing on to make sure that athletes come back and say, wow, we love FMG.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, some of the things I'm going to bring this up. I'm bringing your page up now. Some of the things that I love. One, I love, I love the media photos. I love the pre-show, the red carpet to really glamorize. Look, I mean, glamour's in the name, so you got if glamour's in your branding name, you need to live up to it. And I love the content that you guys were putting out. But something I really liked as well was the transparency that I was seeing the results were also posted.
Yes.
I know not a lot of federations. Of course, you have the NPC where they post results, but that's not for all of them. Here, you actually post the results from first all the way down to 10th. Now, I haven't seen that happen much with other shows. What was the thought process of being that transparent to release the full details of the placings?
So almost everybody involved in our organization has some form of experience, either as an athlete, a coach, a judge, and there's nothing more disheartening, and I can speak from experience, when you don't place and you don't know where you could have come, whether it's, they announce the top three, you don't know if you've got fourth or 10th, or whether, you're kind of making a best guess on the call outs. So giving people as much as we can to give them motivation, and combined with the judges' feedback, an opportunity to improve so that they can come back as a better version of themselves, was a priority of ours, because we can't have people coming doing a show not doing as well as they had hoped or expected, and then just thinking, well, I'll just do that. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe there was a reason why. Maybe there's something that they can focus on and work on in order to make sure that they improve on themselves. And that's what we like to see. We like to see people coming back and making progress and being a better version of themselves. We also have a slightly different method of judging so we actually have score sheets, and we have an odd number of judges depending on the size of the show. For our larger shows, we'll have 7 judges, and for slightly smaller shows, we might only need 5. This way, we can independently judge. We have a number system, so we're putting everybody as an individual judge. We will converse on our table and perhaps share ideas and thought processes as how we'd like to move people around stage. But at the end of it, we have individual people who are experts in their field. They have a good eye for judging. They're vetted for being judges by either the promoter or the head of brand to make sure that they are an appropriate judge. They don't have clients in the show, so they can't be biased. If they do, they have to step down for that category, or they're just not invited to be a judge for that show. And then the score sheets are all then independently tallied up by another independent person, so that all of the judging is fair. So the results that come out from the judging cannot be coerced into a preferable person for any particular reason. I've seen it in the past where conversations have been had where it's, oh, well, we can't place them at first because of this reason or that reason. We wanted to remove all of that. We never want anybody to be able to say that somebody wasn't judged fairly, or they had an unfair advantage or disadvantage. And that's one of our main focuses, is that people feel like they were judged fairly on the day.
I want to touch on this as well, because one of my first ever shows I did was a my pro show, and then obviously I've been built towards to UK BFF and then other shows. Some of the feedback I heard from those shows back then, and this is similar federations within that area, has always been down to they've placed higher, or they've taken first, they take a pro card because of their social media numbers, their social media platform. So it's great to hear in regards to what you've just mentioned about the judging process, and that even goes to another independent person to tally the scores up. So it's all done in a way where your name profiles out the window just how it's supposed to be. We are judging what we see on the day. Going through that process, has other people gone through negative experiences through judging, where they've used that experience now to put this in place to how do we create a fair process that's going to provide complete transparency, that they know that when they compete with FMG, they are being judged on the day, on the physique, and nothing in the past or nothing that people may see on socials.
So we publicly explain what the judging criteria is based on, and rather than it being things like how much of a model is this person or how marketable are they, it's 70% physique. So almost all of your marks are coming from how do you look? How does your physique look on the day? Your muscularity, your suitability for the category, and your condition. You've then got 30% for posing and stage presence. So that obviously is an element of being an athlete, is being able to pose and perform in order to best present your shape. That's all we're interested in. If I'm sitting on a judging panel, which I have done on a few international shows and the London show, I am not interested in where this person's come from, what they have on social media. All I want to see is, do they meet the category criteria? Do they look the best shape on stage on the day? If the answer is no, then I'm looking elsewhere. And you're putting people in an order based on how they look right in front of you. It doesn't. Nothing outside of what we look at on stage on the day is influenced in people's placings.
What's the feedback process like? Because I remember a lot of federations fall in this area where feedback has been either very limited or they don't get the feedback. What's the feedback process like with FMG?
So I did the feedback for the UK show because I was head judge, and I have every single, so once all the scores have been independently tallied, placings have been made, shows finished, I collect all of the score sheets from every single judge. Now, we've got columns where we put people's placings, and then we've got comments. So we will write positive and constructive feedback comments. So we might say something like, fantastic condition, needs more muscularity in glutes and hamstrings, something like that. And I will then take those comments from the 7 judges that were on the panel, including myself, and I will write a specific response. So we'll invite athletes to request feedback. We don't just automatically send it. We only give it if it's requested. So we use the software platform where they'll request, and I will respond, and I will basically collect positives and constructive criticisms, observations as to how they can improve. And that could also include if a judge has written, I think this bikini girl is more suited for bikini athletic because she's slightly leaner or too lean for the category, we'll include that in the feedback so that the athlete can take that into consideration for their next show. And it's the same with the promoters around the world. So someone will be appointed as a head judge for the panel, and an individual will be responsible, either a promoter or judge, somebody who can collect this information and appropriately feed it back to whoever requests it. For 2024, I was happy to give feedback to every single person who did our show as an incentive to explain, because we're setting up a new brand with new categories, if someone didn't place because they were in the wrong category, then we don't want them to think that they just weren't good enough. Perhaps they were just not in the right category. So I took it upon myself. I agreed with Pauline that I would respond to everybody who requested it. In the future, moving forward, we may limit that to top 5 only, top 10 only, and that may be at the discretion of that promoter. Me personally, even if we double our numbers next year, I'm still happy to give everybody feedback because I want people to know why they did do well or they perhaps didn't do as well as they'd hoped.
Well, you just touched on one thing there about maybe some of the feedback could be down to maybe they didn't fit that criteria. If you see a competitor on stage and you know they do not fit that criteria, what's the process there? Is that person very much just, is there a process where you may ask that person to move to another class? Is there a process where you may be looking to see what other classes is as compared to competing in? Maybe they are competing in another class, which is more specific for them. So what's that process like for someone that could be in the wrong category?
So we have a crossover option. So rather than having to pay a full fee to do another category, there's a much lower subsidized rate to do 2 categories. So you have a registration fee for your original chosen category. If you'd like to add a category, it's much less than that original fee in order to add and do multiple. So A lot of people, fortunately for us, were anticipating new brand, new judging criteria, new categories. Perhaps I'm not entirely sure which category I fit into, I'll do 2. So then we would learn from people doing 2, okay, we can see why they did that, but they will place more favorably in the category that they are most suited to. And this is something that I'm paying particular attention to when it comes to judges' feedback. If somebody looks phenomenal and they've just gone and won the bikini category, then they go and do fitness or bikini athletic, it would be irresponsible to then allow them to win that category as well. Even though in the eyes of in the untrained eye or an audience spectator, they might say, oh, they clearly look the best on stage. They may look the most athletic or the most muscular or the most conditioned, but they may not necessarily be the most appropriate winner for that class. And that's why judges' feedback is so important. Because I think we had a girl who was I'm racking my brains as to which categories it was, but let's say it was the obvious winner for the bikini category, but then she also did bikini athletic and she got 5th or 6th place. That doesn't mean she's any less of an athlete than the others. It just means that she perhaps was more suited to one category rather than the other. We do have an opportunity we have workshops where we have and posing seminars where we'll invite athletes that are planning to do a show, and they can come and speak to our pros or the promoters, and they can ask us, which category do you think I would fit best into? There's always going to be people who are a little bit somewhere in between, and you don't necessarily know how they're going to look when their prep's complete. So my advice to them would be, you can do 2 categories. It won't cost the same as doing 2 categories because you have this surcharge for an additional category. But we even had it to the point where we had people during peak weeks saying, please can I add another category? And it was a little bit of difficulty changing all the sheets, but we did it because, again, we didn't want people to get to their first FMG show and think, oh, I've got to wait a whole year before I can do another show and do the right category next time. So we were as accommodating as we can. I know as the shows get bigger and more complex, we will probably have cut-off dates for certain adding extra categories, because just from a operational standpoint, it's very difficult to then change all the judges' scorecards to add. You've got to change the MC's information so they know who's coming out when. You've got the logistics of backstage, trying to make sure if somebody's just done a category that they get them straight back round, or they go off on a different side of the stage to everybody else so that they can come back on with the next category. But we will always do our absolute best to make sure we can accommodate everybody's needs.
Yeah, but I just want to touch on the fact that what if some people that we all know peak week, people's condition, body fat can change very, very quickly. Mm-hmm. Those people who are still unsure, even the day before the show, do you still allow people to maybe speak to the judges or you as a promoter? Because they may still have questions like, I still don't know if I'm in the right category. Am I able to switch category to another one? I can only imagine that that's just operationally and logistically a nightmare when you got to change names around sheets. But is that something that happens?
It has happened. And like I said, for our first year, where it's absolutely pinnacle that we have everybody have the best experience possible, we made sure that we accommodated every request that was made to us.
Amazing.
In the future moving forward, just to make sure that people are prepared, having done an entire year now, it's a lot easier for people to now say, well, who won the shows? Who won their pro card? Who won their crown in the pro show? Okay, that is an example of the category criteria for that bikini girl or that bikini athletic girl. So we were kind of just laying the foundation this year and being in a position of being able to say yes or no. Well, it gives us a little bit of extra work, but it's worth it. In the future, we will automate things so that things are we'll open registration. There'll be a cutoff date for registration, which will include the cutoff for adding extra categories. There will have to come a point where if people are saying 1 or 2 days before the show, can I change or add? We may or may not be able to accommodate that depending on the logistics. I will always do it if I can do it. I just need to make sure that it doesn't affect the running order of the show, because if we end up having someone adding to another category and the MC doesn't have that on their run sheet, then there could be some confusion as to why is number 101 coming out. They're not a part of this. And then all the judges will be confused. So it's making sure we can accommodate people's requests as best we can without affecting the integrity of the show.
I think naturally what you'll find, and you know this as well, is that naturally as years go by, competitors, coaches are more educated in regards to this is exactly what we're looking for every category, that they know where they fit straight away. Just like obviously with other federations that's gone on for over many decades, they know where they fit. This leads me nicely to really, I'm really keen to understand that if somebody chooses to compete with FMG for the first time, they've never competed with themselves, what is the journey looking like for that competitor who maybe wants to reach the highest level for FMG? So we know that if somebody, for example, compete NPC, they want to win their pro card, but after that, win a pro show. After that is Olympia, and then win Olympia. Yes. What is the journey to get to the highest point for FMG?
Okay, so you'd begin as an amateur. You would pick any show that you want as an amateur. You don't have to do a regional in your home country. So let's say I was an amateur, I want to do my first ever show. I could go and do Australia, Dubai, London, America, whatever. I need to place first in my category in order to win a pro card. And there will be an element of, if the category happens to be quite small and we don't consider that individual to be of pro level, which will be a decision made by the head judge, then we may not give a pro card. It's a bit like the way the IFBB have got, if you've got 5 or less, I think, in the category, they may not automatically give you a pro card, but you could request one, and they will make an assessment based on whether they think you're worthy for the pro league. We'll make that decision on the spot. Fortunately, the panels I've seen this year, everybody has been worthy of a pro card. Everybody who's been a category winner has won their pro card. So let's say you've done your show, and let's just say you decide to do it in London in August.
Just want you back 1 second, sorry. Do you award pro cards to potential second place if they're close, or is it just always going to be for the winner?
We haven't. And again, I think it's at the discretion of the head judge. If we had somebody it was phenomenally difficult to judge and they just look incredible and pro-worthy, but it's something that it would be a rarity if it was my decision, purely because I've seen shows where we've just said, well, let's just give all top 3 pro cards because it means more money for the pro category competitors, which I don't agree with. And I've seen people of perhaps substandard 3rd place positions getting a pro card just either to be nice or just to get more hype, more pros on the list. I would never do that. I would only, if I genuinely thought somebody was worthy of a pro card in 2nd place, I would consider it, but then I would say it would be very unlikely. And if not, I would probably consult. Pauline has sat on every panel I've sat on this year because she's been to every international show. I would probably we would have to make a decision based on what the brand owner, Ari, would want and what the regional head judge and the international head judge would want. I think it would be best to say you're not guaranteed a pro card, but it's highly likely you'll get one in 1st place, almost guaranteed in 1st place, unless it was a particularly small and weak category. Let's say we just had 2 people turn up for a category, and we didn't consider that it wouldn't be a credit to them to put them in the pro league. We may not award them with that pro status. I think, if I'm not wrong, I didn't attend every FMG show worldwide this year, but I think every 1st place category winner from amateur categories were awarded a pro status. Okay. So
they got their pro status then. So they got their pro status, which is why it's great to hear the fact that you guys do have a ruling. We've seen it before with other federations where they've given pro status to top 3, even top 5. So it's fantastic that it's already been just the winner. And if it was second place, it's going to be rarity, but that's not happened yet. So, okay, this competitor's now got pro status. They've now got FMG pro status now. What does this mean for this competitor?
So that competitor can then partake in any pro show other than Worlds. So let's say, although I think we may have done that differently this year, just because our first ever Worlds show is going to be September 2025. So that's the World Championship show. Dissimilar to other organizations, you can't just do Worlds. So let's say you're a pro and you haven't competed in the last year. You can't just step onto the world stage. You have to qualify by participating in any international regional show. It doesn't have to be your home country. So let's say I won my pro card last year. Like I said, last year's a little bit different because it was our first ever year. I think I'll confirm this and make sure that anybody asks knows what's correct. I think that everybody that competed in 2024 is qualified for the 2025 Worlds just because it's the first ever Worlds. So there wouldn't have been a full year opportunity for people to qualify for 2025 Worlds yet. But let's say you're a pro and under normal circumstances, you would like to have a shot at the world title, you would have to do a regional show first. So you could go and try to get the Dubai championship title or the UK championship title or the California, Texas, the USA titles. You don't necessarily have to win those shows, but you have to participate in order to qualify for Worlds. What I noticed when I was involved in other organizations is when pros reach a certain level, their only goal is to be world champion, and then they only do, which then has a knock-on effect on the quality of regional shows. But it's also an incentive to win a smaller title before you go for the big one. So let's say you've got your pro card, you've then got any pro show in the world that you can choose from. You could decide to go and do one of the Australia pro shows. You could do next year, we're opening up, we've got New Zealand, Bali. We're going to have our first ever FMG Italy show in, I'm not sure of the date, but that will be in 2025. I should have brought the list, but there's going to be double the amount of FMG shows international in 2025 than there were in 2024.
So before we get to Worlds, if you win your pro class in one of these pro regionals, is there any additional prizes? Like, what's the opportunities looking like for those pro competitors if you do win a pro regional?
So moving into 2025, every pro category should have a pro cash prize for the pro winners. For going back to amateur, we offer our headline sponsors and other show sponsors opportunities to give prizes to our amateurs. So rather than, because you're not yet competing in a professional league, you might win something like, we had athletes that won a 12-month clothing sponsorship from our headline sponsor, Alphaware. And I know they did the same thing at the Dubai show that they sponsored. So that's another incentive for amateurs that not only may they turn pro, they could end up with a clothing sponsor or a supplement sponsor, whoever we have on board, or, a free photo shoot with one of our photo shoot sponsors, or Renata has a bikini designing and themeware designing business. I know that she was offering sponsorships at the Dubai show. So there are non-cash prizes for amateurs. When it comes to pros, it's going to be a cash prize for first place. The crown, of course, for the ladies, the sash and trophies for men. For me, what I've noticed is having that regional or world championship title is your opportunity to market yourself as an athlete, obtain sponsors, and compete at a professional level, which helps you build your own business and position within the fitness industry. So there's a hell of a lot of indirect benefits from winning these championship titles. But in terms of prize money, it's just first place prize, cash prize for first place pro winners.
Perfect. Well, look, it only makes sense as you go to the winners. So that competitors now participating in the pro regional means that person can now compete in the world. So I'm interested now to find out a bit more about the world and what is the opportunity looking like. What's that person need to do to get to the highest point of FMG? So the world's next year, September, is that right? 2025?
Yes, so it will be on the weekend of the 13th and 14th of September 2025 in Gold Coast. I've just booked my flights yesterday, actually, as it happens. I will be present for the show. The London show, as we saw earlier, is 16th of August, so that's almost a month before. So London would be a perfect warm-up show for anybody looking to do Worlds. So somebody could come and do London, maybe win and get some constructive feedback as to how they could improve in the month between London and Worlds, or they might not win and they'll get enough time and feedback in order to know how can I best optimize my opportunity of winning that world title. Our biggest client base is in Australia. I think it's yet to be confirmed if Worlds may move around the world, different locations year by year. But it will be in Australia for 2025. And in order to give yourself the best opportunity of winning the world title, the simple way to put it is to be the best in the world in your category. So you would look at the existing world title championship holders. What did they bring to the stage? What's their sort of datum for muscularity and condition? Can you beat that? And because you've got a 30% marking for stage presence and posing, what sort of energy are you bringing to the stage? It's always such a shame to see somebody who has a fantastic physique, but is very sloppy with their posing or not very confident. I understand it can be quite daunting getting on stage, but what we expect to see at a pro level is someone coming out and owning the stage and just looking like $1 million and thinking, I'm here to win and I look great as well. So it's all about understanding the category, being the best in your category, and then showcasing yourself well on stage.
So we know, obviously, look, it's going to be a Gold Coast. You win your class, your pro class, and then you're pretty much our number one for that division. You mentioned about there's going to be cash prizes for the regional pro shows. So on the world level, do you have any inkling or what's going to be up for grabs for those competitors that do win their pro division?
I couldn't answer that question purely because we've never done a Worlds before for FMG, and it's not my show. So you would have to look out for announcement as to what the potential prize purse could be.
Yeah.
I know that there'll be a huge interest in sponsorships for brands who want to be a part of Worlds. I know that there's a huge interest in the FMG Australia shows, so I know that there'll be prizes and goodie bags and all sorts, but there will certainly be cash prizes for category winners. As to how much that will be, I couldn't tell you at this time. It will either be announced or it may just be something that is decided during the show week.
No, well, that's brilliant that you are giving back to the athletes as well. That's not just going to be a trophy where we've seen other shows where it can just be a trophy, which is fantastic because they have trained to win their world title by division. But it's always great to see shows reinvest as well and put something back to hopefully give that athlete a platform to, as you mentioned, build their own personal brand, build their own personal business, and that could only have a positive impact as well on FMG. I've got a few questions I do want to ask as well. So now do correct if I'm wrong here, but I remember there's obviously another federation that has their worlds. And I remember seeing some stuff where if you were competing at that show, then you had to get your bikini from their brand. You had to book the same hotel as everybody else. You had to use their photographer. It was literally like everything was already predetermined for what you need to purchase, and therefore the price is just skyrocketing.
Yes.
Already, I can only assume that that's not the case for FMG, because you've already kind of explained judging process and everything else. With the competitors that do compete over at the Worlds, do they have their own freedom of choice where they stay, who they get their makeup with, where they get their bikini, who they have a photo shoot with, or is it through the partners of FMG?
We have one mandatory requirement, which is that you use our tanning services. And the reason for that is we cannot fairly judge two different physiques that have been tanned completely differently. It can completely ruin somebody's physique if they've not been tanned properly, or if the tanning the quality of the tan starts to run or drip. And I agreed with this, because if we have the same tan, everybody has the same skin tone, complexion, so to speak, in order for us to give them the best opportunity to be judged uniformly, and that can't be a variable that can change based on whether people made the wrong or right decision for the tanning. Hair and makeup is not mandatory. We will provide a supplier who we will advertise as our recommended supplier, because we've chosen them because we know that they have a high quality of service, but you're not going to be marked down if you don't use them. London show, some people used our hair and makeup services, some people did their own. It didn't make any difference to their placings on the stage on the day. Same for bikini theme wear. You can make your own bikini. You can use any designer you like. We will have perhaps recommended suppliers or sponsors that we would recommend, but it's certainly not mandatory. We don't want people to feel like they're going to be marked down if they don't do as they're told, so to speak, as I know some people have experienced in the past. We have guidelines on how the bikini should look. That's all available on our website. You know, what the cut should be. For the guys, what's cut trunks they should be, what we want to be able to see in order to best complement them. But we are not forcing anybody to do anything. The only thing that we make mandatory to make the judging fair and consistent is the tanning service that we provide.
And look, to be fair, mate, I mean, everyone, wherever you compete, I always recommend that people should always use the tanning supplier for that show, for that federation. Why go through 12 weeks, 16 weeks of prep to then mess it up by you doing your own tan? And that could just straight away impact not just the way you look, but if you know it's not looking right, then of course, mentally, you're not going to be feeling it. And that's just going to impact your overall experience and your overall feel on stage. So the next point I want to mention, and I'm really interested to hear your feedback on this, and that is, of course, the ruling of being a pro with FMG. Now, I know other federations have a similar rule, and some other federations don't. Now, I'm not a fan of pros being, of federations having a pro ruling to stay with our federation. However, I also do understand the reasoning behind it. So I'm interested to understand the reasoning behind, if you have an FMG pro status and you decide to sign a contract to be FMG pro, then you can only compete with FMG. So I'm interested to understand this ruling, if I am correct, and then is that over a certain time period, or how it actually works?
So let's say we've just finished a show and we heard the MC has announced contestant so-and-so has been invited to win their pro status. They don't automatically get presented with their pro status. They're invited to the pro meeting at the end of the show. So they come to the judges' table. We'll have the category winners. Excuse me. We'll have the category winners with us, and either the head judge or the promoter will explain to them, congratulate them on winning their category. They're now being invited to be a part of the FMG Pro family, and so far nobody said no. But what we try to encourage is, if you would like to be a part of our pro status family, it is an invitation, it is a privilege, and we would expect in return that that would be respected and honoured, and there would be no hard feelings if an individual said, thank you, I've won my category, but I would actually like to pursue another show, another federation, because I'm planning to do something else. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Obviously, that's up to them whether they decide to take the pro status or not. Like I said, so far, everybody said yes, please, because they're delighted to win their FMG pro status. We just say that if we have somebody who's won their pro status and then they want to go and do another show, they're not banned, they're not disregarded in any way. It would just mean that if they came back to FMG, they would be reverted to amateur status. So you're awarded this pro status because you're part of a professional organization. It's almost like a membership that you're almost committing to be a part of that professional league and compete within that professional league. And also, we do like to encourage people to then compete. I think there's I think it's a 2-year window where we would like or expect to see you on the pro stage at least once within a 2-year period in order to retain that pro status. There's no fee. It's not like other people where you need to pay an annual membership or anything like that. We just ask that you respect that we have some guidelines and rules if you are to compete within the pro league. But like I said, if people say, no, thank you, I would like the freedom to do other shows, or they just decide to do another show, that's absolutely fine. But if and when we invite them back to the FMG stage, they would have to regain their pro status through competing in the amateur ranks again.
I think a good thing you point out there is, so there is no upgrade or extra pro membership fee they have to pay.
No.
Okay, so I mean that's already a positive, and I guess me saying my point about obviously being a pro and not be able to compete anywhere else. I guess the trajectory that FMG is going, if FMG is the leader or the pinnacle for the fitness glamour competing world, then anywhere else could be perceived as more of a downgrade. So why would you want to compete anywhere else if you're already at the pinnacle of potentially for that area? Am I right to assume that?
Our intention is to be the pinnacle of fitness modeling. Fitness, muscle, and glamour is what FMG stands for. That is what we strive to be. We want to be our own thing. We're not trying to take people from other organizations. We want to provide the best platform possible with the best spectacle of a show experience possible. And we want people to love it and be proud of it. But again, we have done our utmost to make sure there's no negativity, no punishment for people who want to leave and go elsewhere. And we just want to keep things very professional and amicable for everybody involved. We want to create a positive environment. I've experienced competing in different brands where I've been worried about saying something or doing something in case it would affect my placing on stage, or not doing something that I've been asked to do, or having gone from one organization to the next, I actually had comments made to me by promoters saying, oh, I see you've switched. It kind of made me feel a bit uneasy about doing a new organization, because I thought, am I now being judged because I've come from another brand? We want to mitigate all of that. We want people to just feel like they can come and have a fantastic time. They will be judged against the best in the fitness industry, and they'll be rewarded as they are deserved.
If you are lucky enough to get FMG pro status, is it part of the condition as well that it needs to be in your bio or your Instagram handle, or is it completely their choice of them put on there?
No, I certainly have not been asked to enforce any such rules. I think luckily for us, people are so proud that they just do it by default. Yeah. But it's not something that we would make mandatory at all. No, if people want to not even be on social media, that's absolutely fine. It makes no difference. If they're a fantastic athlete, they're going to do well. They don't have to promote us. We would like them to. And what we say to them is, if you would like for us to promote you as an individual, please make sure you create good content for us to use. So we've got girls and guys who are great at going and doing photo shoots and gym workouts. And if they want to tag us and we want to do a collaboration or share their post, that's fantastic. It's great marketing for us, and it's a great opportunity for us to market our athletes. If somebody goes and wins a show and then hibernates for the rest of the year, that's fine. If that's what they want to do, that's absolutely fine. But we can't then help market them as an individual. Perhaps that they don't want us to. But what we try to encourage is, if you would like to come along to workshops and be part of networking events and photo shoots, by all means do, because it benefits everybody. We can promote you as an athlete. You're welcome to promote us as FMG, but it's certainly not mandatory.
Yeah. Now, I've seen about on your page as well, playing collaborations with athletes. Of course, content's always been a high standard. I just want to wrap up here shortly and very much focus on 2025. 2025, London, August.
Yes.
That's the one month before the World. I've seen the content from this year. It looks spectacular. The videography, the photos, the stage production, the red carpet, all looks mega, all looks grand, all about providing an experience, not just on the stage, but also off stage, not just on the day, but also before and after. I'm keen to find out now on what are the plans going into 2025 to take the London show to the next level. As you already mentioned, it should be one show at everyone's dates. If they are looking to do the World, then this is one month beforehand, a great show to be part of. It's in the capital, it's in the Troxy. We've seen pictures already for 2024. Talk to me about 2025 for the London event.
Okay, so as we've already said, we've confirmed the 16th of August 2025 for FMG. We are doing the Troxy again. We had fantastic feedback from both competitors and from spectators about the Troxy. It's a performing arts theatre. It's an excellent venue. It's great stage, enormous stage, great lighting, great music, and everything that we had been told about was fantastic feedback. Some of the observations made by the athletes about some of the restrictions with backstage space, we've now spoken to Troxy and we've agreed to expand that backstage area into the marquee space. So we've taken some of the constructive feedback that we've had from athletes, and we're making sure that we make the Troxy even more desirable for the athletes. It's a very short distance from our host hotel, which is the Marriott in Canary Wharf or West India Quay. It's a 5-star hotel. We will negotiate with the Marriott a subsidized rate for our athletes. It's going to be a fairly expensive hotel, but it is absolutely not mandatory that you stay there. I, as a former athlete, would recommend that you do stay there for a couple of reasons. We have the red carpet event and athlete meeting the day before the show at the Marriott. We also have our tanning services provided for the day before on the red carpet day. So on the 15th, which is the Friday, not only will we be hosting an event, which is mandatory for all athletes to come along to the athlete meeting, the red carpet event for people to network and get dressed up and take great photos and have a nice time. But we also have the tanning services at the host hotel. So if you picture, you're not from London, you've come to London, you can check into the Marriott. You don't have to stay there, but if you were to stay there for one night, for example, you leave your bags in your room, you go and get your tan, you put your gown on or your suit. If you're a male competitor, you can come to the red carpet event, get your photos taken, network with the other athletes that you've been prepping with all year. And then we sit down and have a formal athlete meeting where the promoters, myself and Renata, will talk to you about the UK show. We'll have a judge talking about the judging criteria. We might have the tanning or hair and makeup staff talking about things that can answer questions for anything to alleviate any of the last minute concerns from the athletes. So you could then stay the night at that host hotel, and in the morning you're a very short public transport or Uber ride to the Troxy, so you can get there for the Saturday show. For those of you that don't know, we do a pre-judging and an evening show. So the pre-judging usually starts around 10 a.m. So we've got girls and guys getting up around sort of 6 a.m. on show day to do their hair, makeup, last minute top coat tan, getting to the venue an hour before we start, and then we hit the ground running with prejudging. Prejudging is open to spectators, but it's not always the show that everybody attends, because the main show will then start in the afternoon, evening around 5 p.m. So we do the prejudging. All the athletes will come out. Comparisons will have the main judging aspect of the show is done. It doesn't mean that's the end of the judging, though. And then once that's finished, we'll have an intermission where the athletes are welcome to stay backstage, or they can head to their hotels or wherever they live. And they'll then be invited back an hour before the evening show starts. Now, the evening show is put together in a way that we already have an idea of our top 10. We want to do a confirmation round. We want to judge people for their theme wear, best dressed rounds, things like that. And it also gives the sponsors an opportunity to come along and pick their winners for sponsorships or prizes, whatever they're giving out. So that will all take part on the 16th. And then the show's usually wrapped up by, well, depending on the show size, around 9, 10 p.m. at night. So
Nice.
That's how the London show is going to flow in August.
I mean, looking through the stage production, looking through Toby's photos, which is absolutely nailed. The lighting looks phenomenal. I'm loving the backdrop. You can tell as well from some of his outfits. I saw one of the outfits that Renata designed a little bit early on when I was flicking through the pictures. You could tell that a lot of creativity, a lot of thought has been put into it. Everything. And I think a big thing as well, I would say, looking at all these pictures and the content he's sharing, is there's so many great imagery of the competitors backstage, just all enjoying life, enjoying the experience with each other. It doesn't seem to be anything where a lot of people can find competing maybe a bit, I don't know, bit daunting. Everyone's stuck in their own ways. Everyone's keeping themselves to themselves, but it doesn't look like that. It very much looks like everybody is getting involved with everyone.
So the feedback that we were thrilled about was how much everybody supported each other backstage. So everybody was helping each other out. If somebody had a wardrobe malfunction, you had people helping each other fix their bikinis or their theme wear, people taking photos and videos, people had content creators bringing, and it was very nice to see people I've always said this as a competitor, we should be competing with each other, not against each other. We've all been through the same difficulties. We've all struggled. We've all had good days and bad days, but we've all given it our all. By the time show day comes, everything else it's no longer in your control. It's just what the judges can see, like the work's been done. So there doesn't need to be negativity. You know, I've been to shows where you go backstage, everybody's hood up, headphones on, nobody breathes a word to each other, everyone's sort of frowning at each other, and everything feels a little bit, and that's daunting to have that when you're just about to go out on stage and you're not really sure what's going on or how people feel about you. But if there's one thing I can say about FMG is the vibes backstage and at red carpet, everybody's having a blast, everybody's having a good time. There's so much good camaraderie between athletes, and it's beautiful to see.
I think that's one of the most important aspects that people can easily forget about, is building a community aspect. A lot of times it can only be one winner, but then of course there's all the other competitors where their experience is dictated by how they're felt around other competitors, the staff, the judges, the promoters, how they're felt by spectators, the audience. And if you can nail the stage production, which you've done, if you can nail the best photographer, which Toby has absolutely nailed on the photos, the lighting looks phenomenal. I'm looking through the bikinis and the shorts, the trunks for the men's, and everything looks on point. So there's no doubt that the trajectory is going in the right direction. The fact you've doubled your shows going 2025 shows what we can expect. And with the Worlds being Australia, I should say, the home for FMG, we expect high numbers over there. For London show, I can only imagine it being very popular as well, 1 month before the Worlds. I know I'll definitely want to be over there as well to kind of see it firsthand, having been at some of the other fit and modeling shows. Really keen to see this, especially as you've got such a great venue in the heart, the capital of the UK. So, Alex, mate, I just want to say huge thank you for being part of this. like I said, from what I've seen, also I know Jasmine from Compact, who's a good friend of mine. She was over at the Bali show. She had great things to say, and other people that I've known who've competed with myself in the past, who've competed at FMG, have also said positive things as well. So you're clearly going in the right direction. And what it does look from the outside is that you're taking so much feedback on board from the athletes, from their experiences elsewhere, as well as utilizing your own experiences to create a show that is very much focusing on the athlete well-being, while also staying true to the fitness, glamour, and muscle USPs, the trajectory for what you want to create out of Fitness Federation, which is only 12 months young. So I'm excited to see what happens in 2025, not just at the London show, but also at the other international shows you're bringing up.
Thank you very much for having me on. I'm thrilled to see FMG grow, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it and be a representative for the UK. And I'm excited for what the future holds. Hopefully, my personal position as a promoter won't just be limited to the UK. I'd love to expand, but we're just going to have to see where's the next hotspot to open up. Where do we see a big influx of athletes coming from? That's one of the reasons why we're looking at FMG Italy in 2025, which is confirmed, is because we had a huge number of Italians from the interest from the Italian fitness industry. So it is actually Toby Harrison who will be hosting the FMG Italy show. So he does the Dubai show. He's also our official stage photographer, fantastic photographer, great guy. And just going back quickly on the stage lighting, it's so important that stage lighting is right. So I actually get together with Toby, and we will adjust the judging platform and the position of Toby as a photographer, and we'll ask somebody to stand on stage and go back and forth until we can utilize the lighting to its maximum potential. Because if you step into the shade, you will get terrible stage photos, and it's very difficult to judge. So that's just something, one of the minor details, having so many people who've got experience in the field of shows, photography, competing, we can make sure we give that absolute best experience to our athletes.
Brilliant. No, Davies shows that as well. You can see that in the pictures. Alex, I wish you a happy new year. No doubt we'll definitely catch up before the London show, and obviously I'm going to try aim to come there and maybe also one of the workshops as well. So, Alex, happy new year. I'll speak to you very soon.
Thank you very much. Speak to you soon.